Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. Vern Glenn, I don't know if he's today. Is he coming later on? We don't know. Maybe he'll be here. Maybe he won't.
Slappy holidays to you.
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's right. This is airing just after Christmas. We like it. Did you have a nice Christmas?
In theory, yes.
Yeah.
Looking forward ahead, the ham that we were supposed to get was delicious.
There you go. That's for a nice Jewish boy. Ham is excellent.
Oh gosh, look! If you say that though, think about all the cheeseburgers I've had, in my lifetime. Those are never kosher. Keeping kosher is a lot more work than people really understand.
Oh yeah. I mean, what about eating crab and lobster and?
That's the only seafood I like. So forget about that. No. But then I say, what are you going to do? Send us to the hell that we don't believe in if I don't keep kosher? What are you going to do?
Just remember, whether you believe in it or not is irrelevant. It's whether it's true or not, right? Something to think about.
Well, but God is supposed to be a function of faith. Faith is based on belief. Therefore, if you don't necessarily believe it, it doesn't actually exist.
So if I don't believe that there are starving children in India, then you know what? There's no starving children in India.
No, but that's not based on faith. That's based on fact.
But I could fly to India and you could show me all this stuff and I could say, you know what? This is just a TV set. Come on. I mean,
there's no actual proof of hell actually existing ever.
Not in our lifetime, correct? Yeah, but the thing is, there's a lot of stuff out there in space that we don't know exists. I mean, we're pretty sure it exists. We just can't see it. Tell you what, we're getting on a different philosophy.
Yeah. We should have a whole different program for that.
Today's trivia theme is the NBA in honor of Mr. Jackman, who loves the NBA.
All right. Here, look.
Yeah, Golden State Warriors. There you go. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money.
I've got a Basketball Jones.
That's Basketball Jones. I remember that from Los Casinos. Anyway, sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding 7.5% secured by real estate. Doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Russell Jackman. No Vern yet. Maybe he'll pop up in one of these segments here.
He's still delivering gifts across the world with his Santa hat.
Uncle Vern. All right, so a couple of things here. First of all, Russia barred from the next 2 Olympics and the World Cup, but watered down doping ban, devastating to critics. I mean, so what's going on with the...
the International Olympic Committee does something controversial and doesn't deliver the right adjudication. Wow, that's a shocker. I can't believe that happened with the Olympic Committee.
Wow. I mean, what are they going to do with
the Olympic Committee is, thank God they weren't involved in the 2020 election here.
Talk about corrupt.
Yeah. They really are off kilter. So I don't know. It's another. Is there even going to be Olympics played? I guess is
they pushed it off a year, right? So we'll have to see if they'll push it off again, or these guys probably haven't trained the way they should. I wonder how interesting it'll be.
It's they almost need to completely reset it and but it's hard for the athletes, especially the younger ones like the gymnasts, where you only have a tiny window. I had clients who were trying to raise their 3 daughters to be floor gymnasts, to do the tassel and the ring and the ball. And the amount of training that went into it was just out of control intense. And even one of my really good friends growing up, her daughter she got a scholarship for gymnastics over at Rutgers. Mm-hmm. And she couldn't make it to the Olympics. It was just too hard for her. And she is the most amazing, most dexterous person even in wrestling, I've ever seen in my life. She can do a cartwheel, just literally standing, or all those backflips back and forth across the room. She moves like a gazelle, and yet she wasn't good enough to make the Olympics.
A friend of mine was the bronze medal winner in the backstroke.
Wow.
In the '88 Olympics.
That's a big deal.
It is, yeah. We were talking
I mean,
about
people go bronze medal, you're third place. It's like third place, but in the entire world, you're the third best person in the entire world. Is an amazing
and he said he swam he swam his best race, but it's like 6 hours of training every single day,
for just under a minute or under like
for a
2
2-minute
minutes
race
of action. It's really something else, my heart goes out to the Olympic athletes, but the Olympic Committee, they have nothing but my disdain.
Exactly. All right, well, moving on.
May I mention something? Is the untimely and unfortunate passing of another wrestler and football player.
Kevin Green, he played.
Kevin Green, yes. Kevin Green spent some time in the ring. A lot of people don't remember
about that,
his time as, in WCW, where he fought he was actually part of a faction that had Roddy Piper and Ric Flair in it, and he got to really ham it up and was a bigger than life personality.
Maybe George Kittle will do that when he retires, because
there's a lot of Kevin Green and George Kittle's personality but I was stunned to hear he's 58 years old.
What was it? Just a heart attack? Or?
They have not released, at least at the time of this airing, they've not said what he died from. Jeez. But you'd think if it was a car accident, they'd say a car accident.
Sure.
So I don't think it was an accident or something like that. It probably had to do with some illness, but I had no idea he was even sick. Could have been like an aneurysm. Boy, I've had friends die of aneurysms and strokes, and literally just come and of course my friend Mark Smith, the Mark Bison Smith, who I worked with for a number of years, and he was my close managerial subject in wrestling. He had a congenital heart condition.
Wow.
And I had spoken to his mother actually over Thanksgiving vacation, which was the 9-year anniversary of his death. And she told me that his grandfather died of the same thing. And Mark had said, even though the only way you could find out is by an autopsy that you had that condition. Yeah. Mark, even though he was as big as a brick house and the strongest man I ever met, said he knew he had this heart condition and said he always knew he was going to die young.
Yeah. Remind me not to be your friend, because you got bad luck with friends.
I have seen way too many people die.
No, that's
yeah. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it was fun watching him as a player, and it's funny you mentioned about Roddy Piper. I mean, I've seen him on TV. I know he can it's the mouth, he can act and stuff.
Well, he's dead.
I know he's dead now, but I mean, he wasn't a big guy. Just
Roddy Piper was one of the greatest brains in the history of professional wrestling. He was a mic worker better than he proved that you didn't have to be 7 feet tall and covered with muscles head to toe.
Yeah, Ric Flair was kind of like that too. He's
What you did have to do was Ric Flair is deceptively strong. I think people don't realize he's capable of lifting up a guy that's 350 pounds and bench pressing him. He can do that. But Piper was in relatively good shape, but he could take punishment. Oh. And he also didn't mind working dirty and being, hitting people with, a chair, or hitting them with a microphone, or hitting them while their back was turned, and that sort of thing. Now, I did meet Roddy Piper twice, and the first time I met him, I said, I'm a huge fan of yours, Mr. Piper. I've seen all your movies. I've seen Jungle Ground. I've seen Hell Comes to Frogtown. I've seen everything you've done. And he said, son, you're a bigger fan of my movies than I am. Very funny guy. Really, it's hard for me to believe he's been out of wrestling and gone from this earth for almost 20 years now.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. Well, it's like 15 years. He died about 15 years ago. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Before we cut the break, I'm going to talk about one thing about baseball, and then we're going to continue on with some baseball stuff, even though we have basketball questions. So Omar Vizquel, not involved in Major League Baseball or the potential Hall of Fame due to domestic abuse allegations. Holy smokes! You know, they talk about.
Remember, this brings back my Hall of Shame concept.
Yeah.
Where you let him in the hall, but you say the whole story. So
Yeah,
on the way
like
to the
separate
bathroom,
division just for them.
well, it's the hallway to the bathroom. You line and maybe the bathroom itself.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you like Barry Bonds should get his own stall,
Yeah.
along with like Roger Clemens and like Mark McGuire, all the steroid folks. You just put them all in the bathroom and in the hallway.
So what happens if let's say you do that to Bonds? You tell him ahead of time, this is what's going to happen, and he goes, you know what, forget it, don't.
Good. Then the controversy's over. Then he didn't want to be in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose is in there. I even would move Ty Cobb into the Hall of Shame, and just to be honest. And a lot of these players that wind up, you know, having a history of being racist and being, you know, certainly restrictive against adding the players from the Negro League into integrating that. Yeah. Those folks deserve to be in the Hall of Shame. If we're correcting things. I mean, there's not going to be a Cleveland Indians, you know.
Yeah. Well, so it's like, and then again, where do you draw the line as to what's acceptable and what's not? You know, again, you know, being a racist is not, being a woman abuser or a child abuser.
Well,
you know what I mean?
But let's go back to the wait. No, I'm gonna.
We got to cut to a break, and I got to ask this question. We'll continue on.
Okay.
First basketball question: who had the best free throw percentage for his career in NBA history for a player that played at least 10 seasons? And you'll know this player.
Yes.
Right? That is our question. Sports Econ 101 is going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Yet another segment without Vern. Where is that rascal? I'll have to yell at him when he comes on. Okay, first trivia question. Who had the best free throw percentage of his career in NBA history for a player that played at least 10 seasons?
Calvin Murphy?
Nope. Someone a little bit more recent than that.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Calvin Murphy. It must have. Is it Steph?
No.
Oh no, he hasn't played 10 seasons. Let me see.
Dun, dun, dun,
yeah, no, I
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Steve Nash.
Oh, yeah, he was really good.
43%, and he's like just like a couple of percentage, you know, tenths of or hundreds of percents higher than like Steph Curry and a couple other ones.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I landed all around it.
You landed all around it. Yes, you did. Okay, so now let's continue on with what we were talking about.
And what we were saying is it's the Hall. I mean, remember the name of where you're putting these people. It's the Hall of Fame. Okay, fame.
Yeah, but you could be famous for being bad too. I mean, Adolf Hitler or Stalin was on Time Magazine's Time Man of the Year.
But fame is a mercurial concept. It's not what is famous for what reasons change over time. I mean, there's nothing, you can't say that fame is something that you can encapsulate in a jar. I mean, sometimes there's people who get famous far after when they no longer exist.
Hey, Genghis Khan.
No, Genghis Khan was famous, but a lot of artists, for instance, get discovered after they're dead.
Yes.
You know, and they weren't as popular or made as much money while they were alive as they did posthumously. You know, and so what's famous and what people consider fame, I think, needs to be able to change over time. And, you know, someone that's like a Ty Cobb or let's say a Shoeless Joe Jackson, where enough proof is shown outside of somebody that exonerates them, you know, you should be able to have the ability to change how things are viewed in the Hall of Fame, and maybe in the Hall of Fame forever.
Here in California, and then in our little town of Marin County, excuse me, there was a big controversy over the school.
Sir Francis Drake.
Yeah, named after Sir Francis Drake. And, there was suddenly, I mean, well, I don't know how old the school is, but it's got to be at least 75 years old or so, maybe longer. Okay, Francis Drake, he theoretically discovered Marin, being an explorer, et cetera, et cetera. Then it, comes to light, oh, he was involved in the slave trade. So now suddenly they want to get rid of all of anything that has to do with him. And then it comes to light again that when he was younger, he might have been involved in the first slave trade or something, but then he morally realized this was wrong, and he ended up becoming really good friends with like one of the ex-slaves or something, and he kind of worked to, get slaves free. But yet people, they only want to concentrate on the one thing, but there's somebody who, the history's got redemption.
I don't mind them changing the name out of Sir Francis Drake and some of the Franciscan stuff. That, I mean, if there's enough people that really feel that it offends them to have something named after somebody who had a checkered past, then fine. I mean, you can name it, Oak High School, right?
Yeah,
that's
but I think it's too much rewriting history too, though.
When comes up with rewriting it, or is it filling in the gaps or telling the truth?
A good point. That's why I go back to what Pontius Pilate asked Jesus. He said, "What is truth?" Right? I mean, none of us were there, so all you can do is go by what people wrote in various history books for a very long time. But I think it is kind of interesting, like you talk about, just a Hall of Fame. It's sort of like with for years. Roger Maris had the asterisk after his home run record because he played more games than Babe Ruth at the time, right? I mean, it's something that's said, sure. I mean, if you played 500 games in a
after this COVID series that we're having and everything else that's gone on with COVID, all the record books are going to be records are going to be kind of meaningless. I mean, you're having the NBA, cut their season by 10 games, and last year by, almost 20 games. And
well, look at baseball. What happened in the during the war, the World War II? A lot of the guys, like Ted Williams and all that, were gone. And so, there was Major League Baseball, but it wasn't the same.
Right, and records, you talk about like most number of home runs and things like that get disrupted, and for the NBA, like points per game and people getting most number of rebounds, that's going to be forever affected, especially if we wind up going to like a 72 game season period.
Sure. Well, look at it's interesting. One of the little videos I clicked on last night because I was a big Pistol Pete Maravich fan, and he still has the record averaging 44.2, I think it is, per game. But back then, they didn't have the 3-point line. And went back and did, which again, he has the record anyway.
Right. He used to make crazy shots all over.
Oh, yeah. And they look back to say how many shots did he make from like 22 feet and that sort of thing. And they said that if there was a 3-point shot, and assuming that he just took the same shots each time,
right,
averaged 57 points per game in college.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's, really. And a lot of people are saying maybe the NBA should try considering putting in a 4-point line.
I like it because it gives a little more excitement as to potentially what strategy you can do if you get down to where you're.
Yeah, but it means guys are going to be taking ridiculous 40-foot shots, although they do that now.
True. I mean, yeah. I mean, what do you do when you close to 2 seconds left and you're at half court? You have to do it, right? So. And I don't know. I kind of like things that mix things up, which brings me to baseball. And baseball is considering a bunch of new rules. So a universal designated hitter, right? Okay, that's one. The runner placed at second base in each half of extra innings. Right? I mean, but they'll do that universal.
I don't like that either.
Really? I mean, the thing is, sometimes these extra innings keep going and going and going.
If you're smart, though, what you do is you walk the first batter. You intentionally walk the first batter so that you have a play at first and second instead of leaving second base open. Yeah, instead of leaving first base open. I don't like the idea. I mean, if anything, I would say, I would want to have a situation where the runner would be on first. Or if you really want him to score, put him on third base.
No, but that's a little bit too easy.
I was okay with overtime, with extra innings just being, nobody on base, and
have it go 19 innings, and
Well, you have to earn it. You have to earn your runs. I don't like.
Yeah, but if you're I remember watching games that went 19 innings.
I've done it. I've done it. One of the most amazing games in Giants history is the one against the Nationals, where it went 18 innings.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And that was I remember because it was on Yom Kippur. It was on Yom Kippur, and I wanted to fast, so I fasted, and I was like, okay, well, I'll eat when the game's over. And I'm like,
lost
this
20
game
pounds.
ain't ending, man.
Yeah, it was that the one.
I was able to make dinner, eat dinner, clean up from dinner, and it was still going on.
Was that the one Brandon Belt hit the helmet?
Yes, that was the Brandon Belt game. So
okay, so a couple of other things here. 7-inning doubleheaders.
That's about the only one I'm okay with. I think doubleheaders are it's a necessity. It's over 5 innings. You don't really. I wind up usually missing the last 2 innings that much.
Well, I kind of like that.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay, but I don't like the runner on second.
Okay, how about expanded postseason?
Yeah, I like that too. But I hate the designated hitter. I could go to my grave arguing how bad the designated hitter role is. I can't stand it.
I mean, it's kind of fun to see pitchers hit, just to kind of see how things change with bunting and and all
It's
that.
a matter of principle, okay? No other sport do you only play one offense or defense, and you have no ability to play the other side. I mean, you talk about football. Even a kicker has to every once in a while make a tackle.
That's true. And in baseball, the only thing with the defense holds the ball. Okay,
Yeah.
Here's another one. 3-batter minimum for relievers. Because too many times the guy goes in there, throws one pitch, and there's too much change.
Yeah. On the other hand, if you've got that kind of a staff and you really want the matchup to work, and you really want to see, this great pitcher against this great batter, and just those two guys square off, that's.
I don't know. I kind of like, because it's annoying to have a guy get in there, throws to one.
Dusty Baker. I mean, not Dusty Baker. I'd say Bruce Bochy is probably the reason why that role exists, because he was a huge abuser of just throwing in a pitcher, throwing in another one, throwing in another one, throwing in another one, right at the end of the game.
All right, here we go. Second trivia question. NBA. Who was the only player in the 1980s to block 15 shots in an NBA game? And he did it twice.
Manute Bol. Oh, I shouldn't say anything. Sorry, you wanted me to.
You may answer the question when we get back.
Yes.
All right. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101.
Sorry, I.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Mr. Russell Jackman.
The one and only, literally.
Yes. Who was the only player in the 1980s to block 15 shots in a game?
I thought that was Manute Bol.
You are correct.
Yeah, the Duncan Dinka, and his son is in he's on Portland.
Yeah, how tall is he? He's a little shorter, isn't he?
He's a little short. He's like 7'3", but first of all, they went with the creative name Bol.
Yeah, I like that.
So that talk about being up late at night trying to come up with a name, That's why I didn't want to name my son Jack Jackman. I was not going to fall for that one. I was gonna, but he's the thing is, Manute Bol spent. I don't know. I read his autobiography and it was ouch.
Go ahead.
I read his autobiography and it was fascinating about how he grew up. And one thing was that two stories about Manute Bol. One is that he played soccer most of his life.
Yep.
So he didn't. And the first time that he went to dunk a basketball, he broke his teeth on the rim.
Oh.
Because he didn't realize like how tall he was, and like you know, he's watching everybody jump like super high to get in there.
Yeah.
And so he just jumped, and like all of a sudden his head was way above the rim, and he like went right down on it and smashed his teeth.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
I know.
But he was so wiry too. But his son has a little bit more meat to him too.
Yeah, and his son's been playing basketball his whole life, so it's a big difference between Manute Bol, who had to learn how to play basketball, you know, from an athletic level. And it's like, also, I don't know if you know that, but that's how Olajuwon. He had spent Akeem Olajuwon had spent most of his life playing soccer.
Well, okay, so I know Manute Bol came from the Sudan, right? From Sudan? That's where Bol came from. Where did Olajuwon come from? Nigeria?
Yes, correct. Okay. The Nigerian Nightmare. No, that was
Okoye. Christian Okoye.
Oh, Okoye.
I'm doing this Zoom from my office, and it's like 180 degrees here.
Okay.
It's one of those situations where they'll turn on.
Send some of that heat over here because my house is freezing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Quite a match. Okay. You know what? Still, one last thing about baseball here. So the Major League, they're recognizing the Negro League stats.
Good.
That's I mean, you guys like Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige. Of course,
it's about time.
It's pretty cool. I wonder how you. I mean, it's all kind of interesting because were the pitchers. I guess it is fair to do it because you had really good pitchers like Satchel Paige. You had really good hitters like Josh Gibson. So it's kind of it is the same. You know what I mean?
And it allows people to understand the history and to be able to see the greatness that was the Negro Leagues and how impressive the statistics were. People just aren't even aware of it. And, especially younger kids, especially kids that are, of different races, to see that baseball is an all-inclusive sport, that it doesn't matter, where you came from. If you're a great player, you get recognized, and it sort of brings us back to the redefinition of what famous is all about.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy was, Jackie Robinson didn't break the color barrier. It was more the modern part that he broke. Because back in the 1800s, you had a guy named Fleetwood Walker, who was black and there's a picture of him in the Hall of Fame along with all the other white players on some team, and it was only the Cap Anson who basically had convinced everybody, hey, forget it, let's not allow any black players anymore, and all because of him. And there's a guy who had 3,000 hits and is in the Hall of Fame, and he would definitely be in your Hall of Shame.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, a couple of quick things here. The Jets winning. They lowered their chances of
any given Sunday. It just falls under the any given Sunday.
Yeah. Thing. But here's the thing is, now their chances of getting Trevor Lawrence have dropped considerably.
Well, was Trevor Lawrence even going to go there, or was he going to pull a John Elway?
John Elway? I don't know.
Maybe it's better off. Maybe they're better off not having the pressure of the number one pick.
And sometimes, well, of course, don't they sometimes, like, even if you don't need a quarterback, you might just pick him just because you can trade him away? Sure.
I mean, that's an option too. I mean, didn't work out for Charlotte that traded Kobe Bryant over to L.A. for Vlade Divac, but, you can try.
Yeah. Well, he came right out of high school, though, right?
Yeah, but Kobe had made the declaration that he would not play for any team other than Chicago, New York, or the Lakers.
Okay.
And as beloved as Kobe is, I was never a big fan because the Warriors had a high pick and could have drafted Kobe Bryant, but he refused to say. He said that he wouldn't play for Golden State if he was drafted.
Is it just because he wanted to play for a big market?
Yep. And he sort of set the precedent for draft picks in the NBA, kind of calling where they want to play. And it hasn't worked out too well ever since. So
it's kind of interesting because, on the one hand, I look and I go, if it's employer-employee situation, sure, an employee gets to decide, hey, if some company wants to hire me, I don't have to go work for that company. right?
Yeah, but there's only but the fact is, if you relegate teams that are good, then you're just going to have LA, Chicago, and New York, and every other team won't be able to get any draft picks because they'll all want to just go to those cities, and nobody will go to
Unless you got
Indianapolis.
enough money to do a power team.
But when you look at like what Tim Duncan was able to do in San Antonio, which isn't a major media market,
Yeah.
you know, there's something to be said about taking a city, or Bill Walton taking Portland. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Walton has made himself a legend in Portland, and he'll never be unforgotten for the championship that he got that city. You know, and so there's something to be said about going to the small market and transforming a bad team into a good team. Look at what Josh Allen is doing for Buffalo.
Good point. Sometimes you want to be a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah, because I mean, Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. You know, Green Bay is not a big town. I mean, it's certainly not a big media market.
Got a lot of history, you know.
It does, but it's still, you know, he didn't say, I want to go to New York. I want to go to Chicago. I want to go.
New York's a tough place to play because they're very fickle.
Or LA, you know, I mean, you get a lot of fame in Los Angeles, but by and large in football, you know, football's so big everywhere that, you know, it just doesn't matter where you play. You're going to be, if you're good, people will know who you are and you'll make money. You know, there is no dead end market in football in that sense. Even the Browns, you know, with Baker Mayfield, you know who Baker Mayfield is because he's having a great season.
Yeah.
And even Cleveland, that, you know, has really been, you know, on the outside looking in. They finally, you know, shook off that mantle. Same with the Bills, you know, not having done anything since 1995. There were all sorts of – if you really wanted to feel old, as soon as the Bills won their title, they, like, trotted out all these things about, like, when the Bills were last in control of the AFC East. And they're like, you know, it's got, you know, like America Online was the big way of, you know, getting onto the internet, and cell phones were the size of, you know, bricks and
they weigh as much.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know, it's if you want a reminder of how old you are, you know, the Bills.
Well, you know what's fun though this year about football, and I guess I'd say last year too, is the caliber of quarterbacks is more fun, you know.
Unless you're a 49er
fan. And Deshaun Watson, just people who can, like Kyler Murray, you know, they're guys who can do stuff, you know, except for the 49ers.
Yeah.
Poor Mullins. I mean, he doesn't seem like he's a bad quarterback, but maybe he's got David Greg hands where he's got little tiny
He's good
hands.
for about what he is he reminds me of those little donut-sized spare tires that, like, you can put it on, but you can't go over 50, and you can't drive it for more than, like, 2 days. Like, he's really good for a quarter fill-in or a half.
Yeah.
But he's not someone that can play for 4 or 5 games in a row. He's just not when he gets hit, he gets inaccurate. He makes bad decisions.
Yeah.
And the Niners are a mess everywhere else. They're one of the worst turnover teams in football right now. Historically, they're one of the worst punt return teams in NFL history, as far as fumbling and having other teams return kicks.
Gotcha.
You know, back the other way. So there's a lot of work. Fortunately, the Niners will get a pretty decent draft pick, and we'll see where they go. They need help at safety because Richard Sherman is leaving. You know, Dee Ford never worked out for this year, and they're going to let him go. And so there's some big holes that they have to fill in. And there's no guarantee
special teams need to work.
And there's no guarantee that Bosa is going to come back and be 100% after the major injury he got. And we'll have to see how Kittle plays. We'll have to see if Garoppolo is even going to be the
Maybe they could trade Jimmy G.
Yeah. Around here, the attitude towards Garoppolo has changed 100% from where he was a year ago when everybody loved him and he was a 13-win game winner. You know, now a lot of people are thinking, you know, he might be on the trash heap, you know, if they –
And then what is it, Beathard?
Beathard, C.J. Beathard. He is what he is, which is a backup, and he should play the next 2 games just to see what he can do because he's looked a lot better than Mullins has. But even then, he's nothing better than a backup. He's another Brian
Maybe we can
Hoyer.
give him Mahomes. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Even trade. Even trade.
Yeah, straight up.
Straight up trade. Let's see here. So Marcus Mariota earned an extra $825,000 in bonus money due to earning $200,000 whenever he plays more than 60% of the Raiders' snaps in a game.
Wow.
He did that last Thursday night because he took more than 60% snaps. His salary jumped $625,000 on top of being paid the backup quarterback at $7.5 million per year. So pretty good.
There's your sports econ 101 point.
Over 60% of the.
There's your sports econ moment right there.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all.
It's why they write those contracts the way they do. Somewhere, in a back office, there was somebody like going like this, going, "Oh no, don't."
Yeah, don't put them in. Don't. Yeah, well, yeah. From the upstairs, they go, "Don't put them in. We don't want them to get 60% more." All right, you ready for our last trivia? Which, by the way, there was a baseball player who was going to get an extra $1 million if they cracked like 3 million in attendance, and they were like 1,000 people short.
Oof.
And it's like, if you know that, then you just go ahead and buy a bunch of tickets and hand them out.
Well, there was also a computer program. There's a game that came out, Fallout 3, that was supposed to get this huge bonus if they got a user score of 80%, and they were like 79.8%. And they didn't get their bonus on it. Yeah.
Oh boy. Guys, you still want to get your friends and family to do it. Okay, here's our third trivia question, basketball. Who holds the NBA single game records for steals in a postseason game? Don't say it if you know it.
Okay.
All right. So we're talking a postseason game, right? Not just a regular game. It has to be a postseason. Who holds the NBA game record for steals in a postseason game? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Vern did not show up, that rascal. Maybe next week. Okay. Maybe he's still hungover from Christmas celebrations.
Too much eggnog.
Too much eggnog. Okay, third trivia question. Who holds the NBA game record for steals in a postseason game?
That one, I'm trying to think. I'm going to say Gary Payton.
No, but you're around the same situation, of the same era.
Well, then I'll just go Jordan.
No, Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson. Oh, really? I'm really surprised that it wasn't Gary the Glove Payton, because he was known for his amazing defense. And Iverson was a good defender, but I never thought of him as like the greatest stealer around.
No,
certainly Jordan had his moments where he was phenomenal.
No, but I think it was like 15 steals or something in a game.
Wow, that is.
I don't remember that. I should have put the number here, but it was quite a lot. All right, you ready for our thoughts for the day?
Or in other words, dad jokes.
Pretty close. You got to use these with your kids. So I am great at multitasking. I can waste time, be unproductive, and procrastinate all at once. Like that? Okay. And
if they awarded black belts out for that, I could get a black belt in there.
And along those lines, teamwork is important. It helps to put the blame on someone else. Good point.
If you're a lousy teammate, if you're a good teammate, you find a way to cover for that. And, that's the difference between good teammates and bad teammates.
That is correct, my friend. Well, another show. I would say not down the drain, but another show.
Yeah, we survived without Vern.
Yeah. In the shoe. Another show in the shoe. Hey, you did it without swearing, too. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the holidays. Come on.
There you go. All right.
And Santa hasn't come yet, so I still need
coming a little after Christmas. Okay.
The naughty list.
All right. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios, America.
So long.